your subconscious mind. And the left hand is symbolistic speech for your ego intellect. So your subconscious, your divine feminine, will be doing things for you. But the left hand, your ego intellect, won't know what it is until after the fact. And then you'll get it. You'll have epiphanies. You'll have eurekas. And they're very private. They're very personal. And you'll be shown things. But it's only pertinent to you and nobody else. It's a narrow path. It's an individual journey. I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm having my own journey. You have yours. I'm merely telling you what these simple scriptures mean so that you can chew the cud like a clean animal and then part your hoof and go your own individual way. You see how simple it all is. Now, giving alms is charity. This is not about giving money to the poor. This is about you making an offering. Imagine it like this. The universe is your father. And nobody visits him. Nobody pops up on his radar to say, hello. Can you imagine how disappointing that is? To pop up on the radar, you have to clean your body out so it will function as nature intended at a higher level. And to get in tune with the universe, the Father, you have to turn off that babbling monkey mind that is always on permanent send. Yap, 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 babble, babble, babble. And you do that in alms by giving charity. You meditate. When you turn that off, you are then open-minded. Things can get in. And it goes into the subconscious and it reveals itself to the ego with the passage of time. And as I've explained, then you'll have these moments where you'll have clarity, a degree of clairvoyance, huge amounts of intuition. And initially, it will knock you sideways. You might think, fuck, I'm losing my mind. That's not such a bad thing, because the mind is not in charge, although it likes to think it is. It's a servant that has noticed that the boss isn't doing very much, so it's taken over, when in fact it should be just a servant. That's all the ego is. It's a servant. Nothing more, nothing less. And, where was I? And James the righteous, for whose sake heaven, that's consciousness, and earth, that's your body, came into being. Being. Are we human doings or are we human beings? It's a simple question. We've become human doings. We rush backwards and forwards. And we're just doing things, not thinking, not really being in the moment. Ment means mind. MO, modus operandi. The mode of operation of the mind. Not watching what the mind's doing. Not eating what's put before us. But when you're in the moment, things reveal themselves. It's when you're in the moment that you are a human being. But if you're caught up in the stage of life, washed about with it, then you're a human doing. So you have to be mindful. And it's difficult. But that comes with meditation, because what you experience in meditation filters into your daily life. If you was to meditate, let's say you're a hectic person. If you have a desk that's a mess, 10 pounds to a pinch of shit that your head is a mess as well. If your desk is orderly and tidy, then your mind is probably orderly and tidy as well. But it's good to turn the mind off, because we've all got problems. But when you get to turn the mind off and you're open-minded, things can come in and solutions just present themselves. Now, it's not like you receive a voice in your head that says, right, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's an intuition. It's an intuitive thing. And it starts off with, in my case, some of the things that I used to do, a mild discomfort that increased over time to the point of immense agitation, to the point where I fucking hated what I was doing. As it says in the scriptures, do not do what you hate. And this is how your inner teacher works. It will keep exposing you until you finally get it. And then you respond and walk away from the things that are not good for you, that are not in keeping with higher consciousness. It's that simple. And when you walk away from those things, all the shit that went with it just falls away. You've left it behind you. You've stamped the dust off your feet and you've moved on. You've progressed. And that's what it's about. But it's about responding. It's about responding to that intuition. And it's painful sometimes. Causes a lot of upset, not just for yourself, but other people as well, other people that you might care about a great deal. But it's part of it. That's what makes it difficult. But it all pans out in the end. And this isn't about faith. Your journey might start with faith, but it will progress into a knowing. You will know. And when you know, that can't be taken from you. And when you know, there's nothing else to know. Books, seminars, YouTube videos. I share these videos and this stuff so that people can understand it for their own betterment. And even bigger than that, I seek no validation for it, and I certainly don't seek money for it. It's free. It's so free, in fact, that you can't even give it away during the day, because people have to find it for themselves, and it's inside you. Everything happens inside you. Nothing happens out there. Nothing. Nothing at all, ever. It all happens in here. Everything. So this is where we need to rule. We need to rule your kingdom. And when it's going shit out there, you can chuckle, because you're nonplussed by it, because your kingdom is sound. It's operating as it should do. And your mind is enlightened. It knows things. It has wisdom. It is not walking alone. And because the mind is decreasing, the higher self is increasing, and that will reassure you. Let me explain the rapture to you. Now, there's this Christian thing, the rapture. And in the Christian mind, the rapture is where God takes all the Christians out of the world and they all disappear. And some of them express it as like they'll turn into light bodies and they'll shoot up into space to be spared the great tribulation. Just think about that for a moment and recognize the absurdity of it. It's ridiculous. It's fantasy. The rapture is when you reach a point in your higher consciousness that the ego no longer exists. And your mind is just blank. But you know everything. Because at that stage of the game, you are the Son. And as the character Jesus said, I and the Father are one. And he also said, you are gods. So when you transcend the ego identity and you become more I am, then the I am and the Father are one. So you melt with the universe. The Father, the unified field, God, call it whatever you want. That's the rapture. That's what it's about. So what does that mean in real time? It means that you have the same consciousness as the universe, and yet you are still walking around amongst mankind. Emmanuel. It means God is with us. Do you understand? That's the rapture. It's that simple. God in the flesh. Ta-da. Just imagine what you would be capable of. Just fathom for a moment the responsibility that would come with something like that. Get your head around it. What would you do? We're back to that question again, aren't we? What will you do? Now, for some of you listening, you might think, right, okay, I'm kind of getting that. But he's telling us that we become the Father because we've overcome the ego, we've transcended the mind and the body, and it's an avatar, and the universe will be working through me. Yes, exactly. Ponder that. Think about it.
He does not have much, Dean. I can only find 4 or 5 videos of Danny's. Let's see if this is another one.
Look at Thomas, saying 15. Jesus said, when you see one who was not born of woman, prostrate yourselves on your faces and worship him. That one is your Father. Now, you'll see a mandala, and there's lots of shapes in there. If you don't know what a mandala is, look it up. Look it up on images. And there's all the colours of the rainbow. And they kind of shimmer and they move. It's alive. And you look at it, it looks back. Now, to prostrate yourself is to don't be throwing yourself on the floor. That's not what this means. To prostrate yourself is to recognize the the authority, and to recognize that your ego intellect is not the authority. And it's also to recognize that you come from that. That's the source. And when you see that, you'll recognize that you are too. You have a higher self. And it's the higher self that is also the Father, because I and the Father are one. But then you recognize that your mind, the Apostle Paul, is not the boss. It is not. It's just a program. It's just a story. It's his story, history. That's all it is. And once you see beyond that story, then you'll find that the stories of other people become incredibly dull, because you've seen through your own bullshit. Now you've got to deal with everybody else's. So prostrating yourself is about decreasing the aspect of the ego intellect that thinks it's in charge, and increasing to the higher self. Like John on the Isle of Patmos. I must decrease, he must increase. The decrease is symbolic of prostrating yourself. Elsewhere in the scriptures, people have, in the scriptural characters, have thrown themselves on the floor, prostrated themselves, and the angel said, "What are you doing? Stand up." Okay? There's too much of this prostrating going on, physically and mentally. But to the wrong authorities. That's why the Apostle Paul said, trust the authorities. This is when he went to Rome. That's not the authorities. They're not. They're full of shit. The authority is a conscious energy, and it's everywhere. It's everything. It can't be anything else. If it wasn't here, nothing would exist. What else can I add to that? When you see the one who was not born of woman, prostrate yourselves on your faces and worship him. That one is your Father. Like light is produced by electricity and magnetism. Electromagnetism comes together, produces a dialectic, which produces light. So the woman is involved, and the woman is magnetism, symbolically speaking. When you see the one who was not born of woman, not born of magnetism, so it's not light, not born of woman. That one is your Father. Plasma. Okay? Plasma. What else can I add to that? I'll leave that one there.
Show of hands, how many of you heard the phrase growing up, you can be anything you want to be? Did you hear that? Yeah, what a crock that turned out to be. I wanted to play in the NBA. Turns out I'm short, I'm slow, and I can't jump. Not a good resume, but it wasn't bad. We were middle school. And my best friend, I'll call him Alan, because that was his name. And they said, you can be anything you want. He's like, dude, I'm going to be a model. And I'm like, dude, you're ugly. You can't be whatever you want to be. I actually did an event with the NBA a few years ago, met Shaquille O'Neal. You guys know who Shaq is, right? And I walked away, started dying laughing. My buddy said, what's so funny? I said, what if they told Shaq that growing up? You be anything you want to be. No, he can't. What if Shaq's dream in life is to be be a professional horse jockey. Imagine those horses. Oh! And you start learning it through life. Like I worked fast food as a teenager. Anybody else work fast food? Yes, these are my people. Never give fast food workers a hard time. I don't care what you got, what happened, don't give them a hard time. I was in line behind a guy the other day, and he's just like, it just reaming the poor little girl, going, "Son of pickles on the sandwich, you take it back, don't just take the pickles off, you give me the sandwich." This girl's in tears, like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. And she goes back there, and I'm thinking, I didn't say it, but I want to go, dude, you paid $5, you got food in the bag. Be happy. But I didn't, because if you've ever worked for fast food, you know this happened. I don't know what was on his sandwich when it went behind the counter. He's not going to want what's on it when it comes back. And then I see jobs I could not do. They have road construction here in Provo. Yeah. That was a bit of a rhetorical question. They got guys in the neighborhoods that stand there with that sign, "Stop, slow, stop, slow." Now, these guys get paid really well, but I'm just telling you, I could not do that job. With my personality, after about a half hour, I would start messing with people. Stop. So stop. So stop. Stop. What really cracks me up is these guys wear hard hats. Is that in case the sign falls off or something? That just makes me laugh. And then I got to thinking of other jobs I could not do. I flew out here from Atlanta, Georgia, and I flew to Salt Lake, and it was awesome, but I love flight attendants. I love them. I could not do that job. One flight of having to stand up at that door at the end of every flight. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, bye. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, bye. We'll see. I'm like, get out of the way! The part I really couldn't do was the part they were required by law to do at the beginning of every flight. To fasten your seatbelt, put this end into this end. To release, pull up on it. I'm telling you, I would snap. Direct your attention to Ken. He's going to show you how to fasten your seatbelt. Okay? Okay. The fella? You know what? If we're in a crash and you can't figure this out, you deserve to die. And if we lose cabin pressure and there's a bright yellow oxygen mask swinging in front of your face, and you can't figure out, breathe. Maybe your DNA does not need to be passed on. End of the flight. At the end of the flight, ladies and gentlemen, it's our final approach. Please put your tray tables and seat backs to the full and upright position. Why? Really, why? Okay. Safe, unsafe. Safe, unsafe. Death, life. Death, life. I've got a cousin who was a flight attendant. I said, "What is up with the tray tables?" And she said, "I'm not making this up." She said, "Well, in case of an emergency evacuation, we don't want anybody to get trapped." I would pay to see that. Everybody evacuate immediately. Okay. My tray table fell. I couldn't do that job. Oh, I saw one job. I've done this for over 3 decades. So one job in 3 decades that if I didn't do this, I would want to do. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. Buddy of mine picks me up in a convertible. I'm like, "Dude, this is awesome." I said, "What are you doing? It rains." He goes, "It only rains twice a year." That night I do the show. I go back to the hotel. I turn on the TV in Phoenix, Arizona, where it rains twice a year. They actually have a weatherman. I would love that job. Let's go to Canada weather, sir. Okay, if you notice on the map here, you'll notice that we live in a desert. I'm going to go on a limb here and say it's going to be hot tomorrow. Let's take a look at the 5-month forecast. Hot. That's here. Now, I don't know what you do for a living. Somebody tell me what you do for a living. Like, sir, what do you do for a living? You teach. Very good. Very good. That's a great profession. I love teachers. My wife is a teacher. But you probably didn't dream of that. Like, you can be anything you want. I want to teach. Hey, what's your name? Steve, we want to go play baseball? No, let's get some chalkboards. And I'll show you how to do stuff. Let's do that instead. Probably didn't do that growing up. No, I don't care what your job is. I had a moment when our daughter was little. She was a baby. She had a fever. My wife said, "Oh my goodness, go get a thermometer." And we threw away all the baby stuff. Get a thermometer. I go to the store. I get. Now, if you've had a baby, you know it's a special thermometer. It's called a rectal thermometer. And I wanted to make sure I do this right. I read the instructions again because it's been a while, and I saw this on the instructions to the rectal thermometer. Now, I'm going to say this. I want you to think about your worst day ever at work. Okay? Worst day. And then what I read on the bottom of this instructions, it said each thermometer has been individually tested. Your job's not that bad. Okay, I see this poor guy coming home from work. Honey, come sit down. No. You look sad. What's wrong? Next week I gotta work overtime. Oh my goodness. Life is confusing enough as it is. And I used to think my dad was an aeronautical engineer, brilliant man, but I used to think at times he was an idiot. Because my mom would say something very simple, and he would stand there like a deer in headlights. My mom would say something like, "Hey, we need to fix that drippy faucet." And my dad would be, see, now I know what he was doing. I've been married almost 25 years. He was trying to figure out which we she was talking about. Yes. My first year of marriage, my wife came in one day. She goes, "We need some new spring clothes." And I thought, I got plenty of shorts and t-shirts. Doesn't matter because that was a we. Okay? This is going to help some marriages tonight. I'm just telling you right now. I was watching a ball game one week, and I'm sitting there just Saturday morning watching the game. She comes in and announces, "We need to cut the grass." And I actually had the mental thought, she's going to help. That was a me-we. I'm telling you, 25 years of marriage, I'm still trying to figure it out. My two sons were home from college over the holidays. My wife makes an announcement. She goes, "We need groceries." And I'm standing there just like my dad used to do. My son said, "What's wrong with Dad?" I said, "Leave me alone. I don't know if it's a she-we, a me-we, or a we-we. I'm trying to figure it out." That word can be confusing. When we were first married, some of our friends started to have kids, and the guys would come up and say, "Hey, we're pregnant." Okay, yeah, you look pregnant, but I don't think that's the way it works. It's not, we're going to have a baby. I'm thinking, no, you're not. She's going to have a baby. You're just kind of along for the ride, right? And I've heard other guys that say, "Well, they say that men passing a kidney stone 3 millimeters is the same as a woman giving birth." I don't think so. Women having birth is like a woman passing a kidney stone the size of a human. Okay, that's birth. Oh man. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Now, we have children. Raise your hands if you have children, number of children you have. Raise your hands. That's good. 2 hands. All right. That's good. We have 4, and it's amazing that we have. I love this. My second son, when he was in middle school, last year, I got to coach him. We're driving to practice. And out of nowhere, he's like, "Dad, look, Dad. We're at a red light. Next to us is a brand new Maserati." I'm like, "Dude, that is so cool." And he goes, "Dad, do you think we could get one of those?" I'm like, and it was a moment, and just kind of hit me. I thought, yes. You know what? I could have one of those. He's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yes." I said, "I could have one paid for." And he's like, "Really?" And I said, "Yes." I said, do you know why I don't? He said, why? And I said, you. And he said, oh, man. And I said, no, dude, not all, man. You're way better than a Maserati. I wouldn't trade you for 10 Maseratis. You're incredible. He said, you don't poop in your pants anymore. You can feed yourself. You're awesome, and you're getting better. Now, I want to ask this. How many of you have had or have right now a teenage boy? Raise your hands real quick. Yes. You can understand this. I believe when you get pregnant, you should get a baby shower. When you get married,